Hello everyone. Today, as the title of the video suggests, I want to talk about something I went through, which is called neonatal death. So I lost my third born 2 days after his birth, and it has been okay. I want to sensitize people about the topic of neonatal death because that topic is treated as it's not, people don't talk openly about losing a child, but I want to talk on behalf of other mothers, and I want to talk about my experience of how I lost him, what led to his loss, and how I healed after losing him. So neonatal death is loss of life within the 28 days of a child. So neonatal loss is the death of a baby within the first 28 days of life. So in this case, the 28 days of a child's life is known as neonatal death. So if you lose a baby between between day 1 and 28 days, then that is classified as neonatal death. Then the others who lose the baby in the womb, maybe past 28 weeks, that is known as stillbirth. So in my case, it was a neonatal death because the baby was 2 days old. Okay, so in my case, my pregnancy is always overdue, and that means it goes for over 40 weeks. So without labor coming naturally. So in the case of my third born, his name was Dylan, and the pregnancy went up to 41 weeks. I did not get any labor pain, even for my two kids, the first born and the second born. I did not get labor pain. So for my third born, the doctor advised me to go for induction. So what is induction? Induction is a medical procedure that artificially starts the process of childbirth and delivery. So my pregnancy was overdue, which had gone longer than 41 weeks. So I had to go for induction. And which method was used on my case was a tablet, a hormonal tablet that was used to kickstart labor. So in my experience, the tablet overstimulated my uterus. So what is overstimulation? It's very intense labor pains, and such labor pains are known to cause birth complications. So when you are induced, it can either have advantages or disadvantages. So in my case, I suffered disadvantage. One is overstimulation of the uterus. Then I had very painful contractions. I don't know whether I'm clear. I had very painful contractions. and the overstimulation is uh, the overstimulation of uterus causes very frequent contractions, which can lead to complication within the baby's heart rate and umbilical cord. So in my case, the baby heart rate, I think the baby heart rate was very high. Uh, Even before they started the induction process, my baby's heart rate was reading at 170, 170 on the, what is it called, the ultrasound. So by the time the labor was in the that stage, the nurses had already noted there was a problem of which they could not tell me. So by the time the baby was delivered, the baby did not cry. And I remember I was shocked. 1 minute passed, 1 minute to 5 minutes, 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and I did not hear my baby cry. So the doctors, the nurses, like 10 people are surrounding him, trying to resuscitate him, trying to oxygenate him. He was intubated. They tried all their level best, but my son did not cry. So he was whipped away and he was taken to NISU. And I remember going to visit him, and I was carrying my pamper. I was ready to go to express my need to feed him, but I was shocked. The reason why I was shocked is because my boy was having tubes. The tube was inserted through the nose, and he was kind of breathing very hard, making sound like that. So when I asked the nurse who was on duty that day, the nurse told him, I asked the nurse, how is my son? And the nurse said, he's not good. The nurse did not hide anything. So I remember I was very down, seeing other mothers with their babies, and I could see my son was in pain. I could see my son was suffering. There's nothing I could do. So by the next day, now the day when he died, I came to learn that the hospital had called a pediatrician who specializes in such cases. And unfortunately, I did not get to see the pediatrician. So later in the day, that's when we demanded to see the pediatrician. And I remember when the pediatrician came, she did not beat around the bush. The pediatrician went direct to the point, and I remember her words. She started like this. We are dealing with a very ill baby here. The baby is very sick. The baby has severe brain damage due to lack of oxygen. And I think she tried to explain what happened. So she said that I had complications during the labor process, which led to lack of oxygen to the brain. So his brain was severely damaged. So brain damage was due to less supply of oxygen. And in my case, my Dylan's brain did not get enough oxygen and nutrients. So it led to birth asphyxia. And birth asphyxia is a result of lack of oxygen to the brain. So the pediatrician bluntly told us, with the now the my husband, the pediatrician told us that we are just trying to maintain the baby, and she said that the baby is likely not to survive. So at that moment I was broken, I was angry, I was questioning God, I was very down, and at that moment I lost hope. So that night, now before the baby passed, I went to the room where he was kept, and I found now they had removed the pipe, and he was totally intubated, and he was bleeding through his mouth and nose. And when I called the nurse, now the nurse was in charge that evening, and I asked her what is causing the bleeding. The nurse was kind of she told me she doesn't know. So at that moment I saw my child was in a lot of pain, and when I left that room, I think before I left the room, I tried to open his one of the eyes, and I just felt hopeless seeing him suffering. So when I went back to the maternity ward, I prayed to God, and my request to God was one. Uh, I requested God to intervene, and if at all my son is in a lot of pain, I requested God to aid that pain. I could not bear to see him suffering, bleeding through the mouth and the nose, and the nurses are not able to help him. So I prayed to God, and I slept a very deep sleep. And in that sleep, I was relaxed. So some minutes to 1 a.m., a nurse called me, Maureen, Maureen, and I responded, is there a problem? And she told me, yes, just come to the NISU. And so I was, you see, I was very sleepy. So I woke up and rushed there. And when I reached there, I found another male nurse who was a bit compassionate, and he sat me down and he told me, Maureen, you know what, your son had some conversion and he rested. So at that moment, I felt totally numb, totally numb. And I did not say anything, I did not ask anything. All I asked the nurse was, can I see him? And when I went to his room. Now the room was very quiet because now he was not breathing the way he was breathing, with making some noises. So the room was very quiet there, and he was there lying very still, and and I saw him very still, peaceful, without pain. And I just left the room and went to sleep. And I could not sleep. But all in all, he was no longer in pain. And now, now what followed was very hard for me, accepting that I'm going home without my baby, accepting that my son had passed on, seeing other mothers in the world with their baby crying. It was very hard for me. And I remember during my healing process, the way I depended on God. And I remembered the book of Jacob, where Jacob lost all his things, or all his property, or all that he owned, but did not mock God. So at that time of healing, I used it to praise God. And I remember one day I was watching Pastor Stephen Fatigue from Elevation Church, and I wrote a comment there, and I told God, please God, kindly restore my boy back to me. I just need my boy. And at that moment I knew that God was going to restore me with another baby. And true to his promises, I conceived again, because I made a decision to conceive as much as possible to heal. So I started trying for another baby, and God was there for me. And after I conceived, when I went for ultrasound, I was so excited to hear that, no, Maureen, you have a boy. And I was thrilled. I was very happy. So what I can say is that people should not stigmatize around child loss, and they should know that it's a normal thing. Mothers are losing their babies. People should not try to relate child loss to traditional myths or taboos. Children or babies are dying out of birth complications, and from what I learned is that induction of labor can either favor you or bring complications. So in my case, it has favored me twice and brought one complication. So to mothers who have suffered child loss, be firm to speak about your babies, because people are telling me, oh, it was not your baby. No, the baby was mine. The baby is my bloodborn. And even if I have three babies right now, will remain to be my backbone. And right now I want to take this opportunity, now that this is the month of November when I gave birth to him and when he passed on. I just want to thank God for blessing me with another boy. So thank you for watching my video, and God bless you. Thank you.